to New Zealand. Thank you, Global Alliance, for organizing this Student and Young Practitioners Month. A heartfelt thank you to Ana Pista in Manila for chairing the Student and Young Practitioners Month. This event is truly global as the current World Cup that's going on. And because the World Cup is going on, we will give you, and you have to concentrate for 2 hours in our program, the latest football result that is coming live from Global Alliance. Now, for example, Cameroon is playing Serbia. Serbia is leading 2-1. And I think it's halftime at the moment. So at least you focus for the next 1 to 2 hours on our program because you will get the latest result. At 9 o'clock Kuala Lumpur time, which is in about 2 hours time, you can switch off because I think in 2 hours, South Korea is playing Ghana. And I know Peter Mutie will be rooting for Ghana, I assume. Let's hope all of you concentrate in this program because it is very important. One global line that we can see from the Student and Young Practitioners Month is, for all of you, for the students, young practitioners, and for all of us, we're going to have a lot of fun for the next 2 hours. The second F word beside fun is, and this is a common denominator because I work in an agency, I came in and I saw some of my colleagues already. We enjoy our fast food. Yeah. So having fun, having fast food is common with young practitioners and students at our agency. And the final F is, of course, football. Football World Cup is going on, so I will give you the latest result. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls from all over the world, the Student and Young Practitioner Month is an annual event of Global Alliance that aims to share timely and relevant knowledge that can benefit students and young practitioners alike who are keen on advancing their communication practice. It's very important for you to just concentrate because there are many things that you will learn from all our expert speakers here. There are 4 of them from all over the world, a lot of sharings. This Student and Young Practitioner Month is part of our professional development program and activity at Global Alliance, and it's been arranged in line with the Alliance's ongoing No Movement campaign. For us to understand a bit more about the Student and Young Practitioners Month, please give a big hand to the Chair of Global Alliance Students and Young Practitioners Month, Ms. Ana Pista in Manila.
Thank you so much, Jaffri, for that nice introduction and for doing a recap of what is to be expected for today's session. First off, allow me to thank our esteemed guest speakers, Mr. Peter Mutie from Africa, Ms. Fiona Cassidy from New Zealand, Ms. MandyPearse from London, Ms. Tomas Dardet from Puerto Rico, Mr. Jaffri Osman, of course, from Malaysia, and Mr. Mateus Farlaneto from Brazil. As you can see, we're really global here. Thank you for giving us your time despite your very hectic schedules and holidays. We are privileged to have these great speakers from the industry from around the globe. We are so honored to have you guys. To all the students participants today, your presence is highly appreciated. We are very happy that we can now meet with you and do activities together again, albeit virtually, to celebrate our annual Student and Young Professional Month, spearheaded by the Global Alliance. Our President, Justin Green, together with your esteemed speakers, are doing this yearly to assure and ensure the future of PR industry is bright and promising. In a nutshell, this session hopes to give you all an access to activities that can help expand your knowledge and networks, an avenue to develop a greater appreciation of the PR profession, and a better understanding of the vital role you are to play once you join the industry. Now, before we proceed, I would like to first show you a quick overview of the PR profession, source of which is Global Alliance, a survey done this 2022. So it's really, really very fresh. In fact, aside from Malaysia, the UITM University, this is the first time that we are presenting this data. So I would like to start with this. I hope you will not get bored. but I think we're gonna pick up some of the important, or pertinent details that our speakers would speak about later on. Next slide, please. Okay, so it's not. Yeah, so I'll give you an overview of the PR trends and insight from around the world. Next. Okay. Have you ever asked the number of PR workforce globally? Okay, who's number one? Which country? Okay, China, with its 1.4 billion population, accounts for the most number worldwide with 5 million. 5 million PR workers in China. In Indonesia, there's 1.09 million. In the USA, there's 243,000. In France, there's 224,000. In Peru, there's 40,500. New Zealand, 10,000 practitioners. Finland, 8,000. Canada, 6,400 are in the middle of the pack. Bringing up the rear are Puerto Rico, 1,750, Kenya, 3,000 practitioners, and Republic of Ireland, 3,000. In terms of percentage, Indonesia ranks number one with 0.4%, followed by China, 0.36%, France, 0.34%, New Zealand, 0.2%, and Finland, 0.15%. So in here, you would see that there are too many practitioners globally. Next slide, please. In terms of economic value and job opportunities, I think you'll be interested to hear this. Finland has the most number of employed workers in-house at 90%. Next is Kenya, 80%, Indonesia, 67%, and Canada, 59%. USA and Puerto Rico are last, 25%. In terms of agency work percentage, or those working in the agency, the USA has 55%, followed by China with 42%, Ireland 35%, Indonesia 28%, and the bottom pack is Finland 4%. Puerto Rico has the most number of self-employed PR practitioners at 50%, followed by Canada 22%, the USA 20%, and Ireland 10%, and Finland and Kenya bring up the rear with 2% and 0% respectively. As for value of PR profession to the national economy, the USA tops with 17.3 billion. So that's how much they bring into the economy. Next is China, 11.3 billion, followed by Ireland, 1.2 billion, Canada, 775 million, and Indonesia, 760 million. In terms of average salary before tax, no bonus, Ireland offers the highest average salary. So they get 74,000. Next is New Zealand with 60,000, followed by Canada and the USA with 55,000 and 54,000 respectively. At the bottom end are China, 23,000, Kenya, 12,000, and Indonesia, 10,000. I should say that Philippines is the same with Indonesia at $10,000. In terms of age, Indonesia has the most number of young professionals aged 18 to 24. That's 31.4%. China has the most number of 25 to 34 years old practitioners, 65%, while USA has the most number of 35 to 44 years old, 40%. Canada has the most number of 45 to 54 years old, 31%, while Puerto Rico has the most number of 55 to 64-year-olds, 25%. Surprisingly, even those age 65 and above are still being employed in the PR industry, with Puerto Rico at the top of the leaderboard with 20%, followed by Canada and Finland with 16% and 13% respectively. I just would like to add here that students, you would know which country you're gonna go to after you graduate, because you could see in this graph which countries have the most number of 35 to 45 and 45 to 54. They soon have to have the most number of young professionals. So as you can see, there is really a need for our profession. Next slide, please. In terms of educational levels, in Ireland, 1 out of 3 PR practitioners hold the diploma in public relations. Those in Peru, Indonesia, Puerto Rico, the USA, and Canada, on the other hand, would have a college diploma or a bachelor's degree obtained from a university. A few others would have a master's degree or a PhD. In terms of work nature and types of duty carried out, first on the board is PR crisis management. Next is digital and online or social media communication, followed by event planning and organization, communication strategy development, corporate PR, reputation management, internal comms, and government relations. Rounding out the top 10 are community relationship and client counsel. The standard workday is approximately 8 hours. Is this real? I would like to ask the speakers later on if it's really approximately 8 hours without OT pay. However, some PR practitioners working outside of the standard is common. Post-pandemic, there has also been an increased number of companies offering a hybrid work location environment to provide flexibility. Next slide. Okay, now what are the main working roles and expectations of PR practitioners? Here in Canada, it's very, it's from 1 to 10. Number 1 is strategic planning. Next is media relations, crisis and issue management, internal communications, public affairs, corporate communications. In USA, it is number 1 is crisis communications, followed by purpose cultural communications. Of course, diversity, equity and inclusion, internal communications, managing disinformation, ESG, digital communications, social media, counsel, and media relations. I will mention some of the countries, so that's Canada and USA. Next slide, please. Let's go to Puerto Rico. In Puerto Rico, number 1 is corporate communications, followed by crisis management, social media management, stakeholder sentiment monitoring, media relations, community relations, event management and production, and internal communications. The last 2 are research and government relations. While in China, they have categorized it as account manager, media manager, event management, creative design, strategy planning, copywriter. So it's more of like the definition of what they do, and it's like, how they put together the nature of the work that they do. So that's in China. Next is Indonesia. In Asia, Indonesia, number 1 is strategic planning, research to measurement and evaluation of communication programs, developing and evaluation of campaigns, crisis management, public affairs, government relations. While in Finland, they're very much in need of workers for content creation, strategic management and issue management, media relations, internal communication, social media, digital and online management, so on and so forth. Now, next. Ireland. So you can see that in Ireland, communication strategy development, just like in Indonesia, is number 1. General media relations, PR strategy development, reputation management, issues management. While in France, there's so much need for press officers, internal communication officers, event project managers, PR managers, community managers, graphic designers, web designers, layout artist, and iconographer. Next. Kenya. So in Kenya, number one, work duties carried out are media relations, internal communications, external communication, events management, photography, corporate publication, speech writing, social media management, photography, and online communication and under online communication related works. In New Zealand, number one is strategic communications, followed by corporate communications, then reputation management, media relations, community relations, crisis communications, stakeholder engagement, government relations, corporate social responsibility, and content creation. Now, having known that these countries prioritize this kind of workloads and responsibilities, how do we approach the future? What are the threats facing PR companies, practitioners, or the profession as a whole? I'll just quickly mention this. All right. In Canada, financial constraints on companies post-pandemic, downsizing and budgetary cutbacks from non-ethical practitioners and immediacy of knowledge. I think it's the same in the Philippines. It's a problem also for mis and disinformation. In Puerto Rico, AI and deepfakes, value perception weakens relative to increase of non-PR related works. In China, the threat is the importance and the position of PR industry need to be further recognized. I would say that in the Philippines it's the same. Professional personnels are challenged of continuous learning and career promotions. In Indonesia, most common problems or threats would be financial constraints, budget cuts, less important than other functions, non-management strategic PR competencies, research and evaluation, handling crisis, social engagement, and all. So these are, if you see threats, these are the key things that needs improvement. So we're mentioning it per country. Now, in Finland, they are saying that the threat there is the organizational commitment, work engagement, and mental health issues. Okay. Next. In Ireland, they're having a problem with staffing. Okay. You have to listen to this, students. They lack staffing, lack of professional 100% employment. And of course, they're dealing with fake news and lack of professionalism in the industry. In France, there's a threat to the sector. The threat to the sector would be the loss of attractiveness of the jobs related to communications. It says that the latest study in communication that jobs are perceived as moderately attractive by the majority of professionals with a score of only 6.7 out of 10%. So there. In Kenya, the threat is weak financing of the HR functions, placement of the PR function in unfitting organizations. PR is lumped with legal services. In New Zealand, as an industry body, how do we stay relevant with all the different and competing organizations and institutions, kind of like bodies? Having a good staff are an issue, as we now do so much more, especially that there's a work from home, setup. Now, in Peru, their threat would be an acknowledge of the scope of profession. Crisis prevention is very lacking, and the knowledge there. Confusion between PR, advertising, marketing, and social media. And a lot of fake news and disinformation. Next. So Global Alliance had this Approaching the Future 2022. We will be sharing this with you, but will not go about the details of this because this is very nitty-gritty. And we just go to the next slide, please. Next. Okay, these are the key trends in that was done, found out by the survey and research done. The first level includes trends related to the leadership role of organizations as catalysts for change. So you would see here corporate purpose, responsible leadership, digitalization, diversity, equality, and equity and inclusion, and corporate governance. That's number one is the purpose and responsible leadership are the most relevant, followed by strategic issues that have arisen as a result of business and social demands such as digitalization. That's the level 1 relevance. Level 2. Next slide, please. Level 2 relevance. This level includes key issues for obtaining and expanding the license to operate and for strengthening and protecting social and relational capital with stakeholders such as reputation and reputational risk management, corporate communication, and the building of stakeholder trust. In addition, this level also includes key issues related to the management and enhancement of sustainability, such as the 2030 agenda and ESG metrics and reporting. I think these are quite heavy stuff for starting, students. So would just be explained later on, but by our speakers. Next slide, please. Let's go on to the level 3. Among the trends that are reported as being relatively significant by professionals are issues such as adapting to the future of work, cybersecurity, and aspects related to the public positioning of organizations such as the CEO's reputation and the promotion of activist brands. The lowest ranking trends in terms of priorities are both related to sustainability, climate change, and ESG fundraising and investment. That's why right now most of the campaigns and explanations on how to improve on these campaigns are focused more right now on climate change and ESG. Next slide, please. So that's it. That's just a summary. And I hope that you learned something from this presentation. I now would like to turn you over to our moderator to discuss this further with our speakers, Mr. Jaffri Osman, who will share with us what can be expected from the speakers in today's sessions. Thank you, and back to you, Jaffri.
Thank you, Anna. Pista, big hand to Anna. I think it's a strenuous data sharing, and I think it's a very important data sharing because if you are in Kuala Lumpur, if you are in Manila, you know what Jakarta is all about, employing you as a new PR executive. Not just the range of salary, but the expectation of what they are looking at. If you're thinking and you're in Singapore, you're thinking of going to work in Dublin, Ireland, you have the bigger picture about the needs of PR practitioner, PR consultant, and agencies in the region. And I think we will definitely come back because there's just a lot to share from the data presented by Anna Pista from the Global Alliance. Now, to move on straight, now, just before that, I promise you I'm going to give you the score. The score is Serbia 3, Cameroon 1. And the AI basically says there's a 97% chance that Serbia will win it in the end. Anyway, speaking about data, I'm just happy that we're just going across the Atlantic to our friend in Puerto Rico. Our first speaker is the president of PR Link Communications, a PR firm based in Puerto Rico that specializes in strategic planning, program implementation, and media relations. He is a licensed public relations practitioner in Puerto Rico, a board member of Puerto Rico Public Relations Professional Association as president-elect for the year 2022. He is an accredited PR practitioner of PRSA, which is the Public Relations Association of America, one of only approximately 25 in Puerto Rico. He's also a board member of the Liberty Foundation for Puerto Rico and the USVI. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to our colleague in Puerto Rico. A warm welcome to Mr. Tomas Dardet.
Hello, hello. Jaffri, thank you. Thank you for having me here. Thank you so much. Can you hear me well?
Very good.
Okay, great.
Yes,
great,
yes.
great, great. No, it's great. It's great to be here. Nice. We're having excellent weather, nice weather here today. So how would you like me to
Yes, maybe you
commence?
can just speak a bit about Puerto Rico's own experience, about your own engagement with young practitioners, and what are the students' expectation in Puerto Rico universities as they enter the job market possibly. And from some of the data presented by Anna, some are relevant to Puerto Rico. Would it be of benefit to young practitioners in your country and your region to join the profession? Go ahead,
absolutely,
Thomas.
absolutely. I think, to put everybody into perspective, Puerto Rico today is very different from Puerto Rico 5 or 6 years ago. We had a horrible hurricane in 2017, Hurricane Maria, that absolutely destroyed everything on the island. Telecommunications, electricity, water, I mean, it was horrible. And a year after the hurricanes, we had these awful earthquakes in the southern part of the island in 2019. And then in 2019, the pandemic started. We've had a really, really tough time. And when I saw a question earlier about how have things changed since the pandemic, I have to say that things have been changing longer for us. We've reached a point of relative stability right now. But then as it affects public relations and the practitioner and the practice of the profession, it has, the pandemic, so to speak, hasn't really affected it when we compare, from years before with the hurricanes and the natural disasters. It's just been a change in focus, basically. Years before the hurricanes, companies were focusing a lot of their, they had stability, so they were focusing on the regular programs and corporate social responsibility programs and general communication programs. And we're returning to that state now, because the island is now under relative stability. We had a small hurricane this year, Fiona. I know, Fiona, we have a panel colleague that's here as well by the same name. But it wasn't as disastrous as Maria, so we recuperated rather quickly. I think that this profession will always exist, as long as there's as long as there's a need for communicating with each other, as long as there's free speech. There will always be a need for communications consultants, because not everybody has the skills, not everybody has the innate nature of being able to communicate with empathy and understanding of what the other person or the entity on the other side requires. So, in that respect, I think there is a strong future. Of course, there are threats. I don't think there's any time in the world where there are not threats and challenges. The only constant in this world is change. So it's a matter of adapting to change. But, unless we reach this horrendous point in life where everyone is controlled by artificial intelligence, then, there will be a need for communicators, and there will be a need for consultants. I think, in terms of skills, being able to have empathy, that's innate to your personality, being able, being inclined, or, to have strong values, to believe in transparency and transparent communications, even in difficult times, is very, very strong and very much needed in this profession. I think I'm going to share with the group, because I noticed that some of the students come from different backgrounds, and I wanted to share with you my own background. And because I didn't study public relations, I studied marketing. My dream was, when I was in college, I wanted to work in an advertising agency. I wanted to do advertising. So I studied marketing and I started my first job at, General Foods. It was a product, they made all sorts of products here in Puerto Rico. And I started my work there. And it was while I was there that I was called by Hill Knowlton, a public relations company here in Puerto Rico, because the president had this vision of having a mix of, PR professionals. He was going to train and develop PR professionals coming from different backgrounds. And he picked me and he picked another girl from another marketing company, and he developed us and he trained us and he made, he made us specialize in this field. And that's when, I became, infected with the PR profession. I never thought I was gonna end up working in this. And the point of the story is that throughout the years, I later worked in advertising and then I came back to public relations, but my background is very mixed in communications. And so I think for students, that's really important. I had a very solid training in research. I don't think too many PR students get the chance to become proficient in research and all different styles and types of research programs. The difference between formal research and informal, and all the different varieties and different tactics. It's so important because our profession is so hard to measure, and so it's important to understand all the ways that you can measure this profession. And then to have a mix in advertising and marketing skills, it's really important because many of our clients, if you're working on the agency side, many of the clients don't have a PR background. So they understand the marketing language. So to be able to understand that language will give you an edge. If you can communicate and you can reach, you can understand them better. So, I think that if you have a chance of working in different communication related fields, will give you an edge in this profession in the future. Let me see what else can I talk about. I think when thinking about the changes since the pandemic, going a little bit back to that, again, we after the hurricanes, we prepared to work completely remotely, to have everything cloud-based, to have everything, movable and agile. And so with the pandemic and all the confinement and all the cautions taken with that, we were working out of our homes. But we were prepared for that. We had already made that shift in Puerto Rico, so it was easier to shift into that mobility aspect. So I'm not sure what else can I talk about. Let me see.
I think it's been excellent. When you talk about bad weather, in your case of we have that in Malaysia. We have floods, and I'm talking about dramatic floods that impact thousands or millions of us in Malaysia. And this happens normally towards the end of the year. But now, because of the weather pattern, we also get it in the month of March, April, and May. And sometimes there's a standstill of a few days of people not having food, water, they can't go home, and there's crisis. However, you prepare your crisis plan, there's still a need for you to be agile. You're so right, Thomas. And agility is critical with the public relations profession. Yeah. Anything else you would like to share, Thomas, before we move on?
I wanted to talk a little bit about other things that I think are important for the profession. My father always used to tell me, in your early years where you're working, it's important to plant seeds, relation seeds. because in the future you will be able to, you know, to obtain the crops of the relationships that you have built. And it's so important for our profession to have good relationships across the globe, across the world, across, you know, in different aspects of your um, eh, of your development. And I think that, you know, when I was growing up, so to speak, when I was starting in this profession, I was working in large office environments, and so you're naturally meeting people every day. And I think it's a big challenge, you know, for students nowadays to develop relationships, because you know, coming out of the pandemic and, you know, and COVID and everything, you know, everybody has been hunkered down on their own. And so, you know, now that, you know, the pandemic is kind of like easing up a little bit, you know, it's really important to get out there and to participate in events like this, or participate in live events where you can engage with other people, and go to industry events. And if there's a student chapter in your public relations association in your country, belong to it. Is there, if there are, you know, any other related industry areas that are appealing to you, you have to go out there and meet people, because those relationships will be helpful in the future. You know, it's really important. People trust each other when they've known each other from before. So I think that's really, really important. Obviously, you know, develop your communication skills, both written and oral. You know, that's super important for the future. And in public relations, you always end up managing projects. So your project management skills come really very, very handy. Will be very, very handy. And be inquisitive, you know, be curious about the past and past experiences, study cases. You know, I I like going to the Public Relations Society of America, the PRSA. They have, if you're a member, you have access to a whole lot of case studies from previous companies or organizations that have submitted cases to participate in the Silver Anvil Awards. And those are there in many organizations that you can go up and look on. They have them all categorized depending on the topic. So I think it's really important to search around the globe and reapply where it's possible. You know, you learn a lot by looking at what other organizations have done in this field around the globe, if you have that chance. So yeah, you know, those are some of the thoughts that I had.
Wonderful, Thomas. You know, and it's also related to what Anna mentioned, especially on this networking and going out and have the right attitude towards what you want to learn from each other, and join an association. And once you join your university or maybe your country institute or country association, ask them what are the activities that they're holding. Now, Global Alliance itself, we are in more than 100 countries. We've got more than 300,000 members. And this networking have actually exposed many lecturers and practitioners in Malaysia, in the region and globally, to network with each other. So I'm just thankful, Thomas, to talk about this networking and agility. Speaking of agility, our Cameroonian friends have now drawn, the score now is 3-3 with Serbia. Even though there was a 96% chance. Oh, I look at Peter. Peter is having a celebration now. Yeah, because it was 96%. This is AI again, and our trust on technology. AI actually said that there's a 96% chance that Serbia will win the game. Now, Serbia's chance is only down to 37%. So that's momentum growing. Speaking of momentum, we are now going straight to New Zealand. Our next speaker is an executive leader and communicator, an amiable lady who hails from Wellington, New Zealand, and is recognized worldwide for a proven track record in strategic communication, reputation management, and change management. She is also an international presenter, mentor, and educator with a commitment to lifelong learning. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our sister in New Zealand, Fiona Cassidy.
Kia ora, good morning, everybody. It is almost 1:45 on Tuesday morning here in New Zealand. Firstly, can I say to everybody who has joined us today, congratulations for picking what is probably the most exciting career in the world. And really what I wanted to talk about is your journey as it currently stands. So whether you're a year 1 student or a year 4, or you're a bachelor's or a master's, or you're doing a diploma, the great thing is right now you don't actually have to determine which part of public relations or communications management you are going to go into. So one of the wonderful things about our careers is that no 2 days are the same, but there are some fundamental skills that we must have. The first is we must have the ability to write well. Now, I know that we now know that this, our phone here, is the most important way to communicate with people. So we need to be able to write in many forms. That could be doing a text, that could be doing a social media post. The second thing we have to be able to do as our world continues to change and to actually use technology to be better communicators is we need to be able to create engaging content. It's fundamental to the future that you can get people who read millions and millions of pieces of information on their phone every year. You need to get cut through. And the only way you'll do that is having something unique and creative that they can actually hook into. The third thing you need to really develop to be successful is you need to be a critical thinker. Now, I know when I was going to school, I never thought I'd have to keep learning. And then I did a bachelor's, and then I did a master's, and then I did another master's. And I'm now, many decades removed from where you are, but the constant to being a good communicator is being relevant and staying up in line with the trends. So let's have a look at a couple of the things that are actually affecting our industry and are likely to continue to affect it in the next 5 to 8 years. One of the things that the people we work with or the people we work for are looking for is for us to build trust with our communities. Now, when I talk about the word communities, that could be whoever you deem that to be. Could be your community that you're with as a student, that could be your community that is a family, that could be your business community, or that could be the community that you go to work with each day. We have to have that ability to build and maintain community contact. Now, to do that, what will always underpin what we do as communications people is research. Yeah, research is fundamental to being good at our job. And it doesn't matter if that's today, or if that was last year, or if that's in 10 years' time. Now, what has happened, unfortunately, in our world as disinformation and fake information and information has been available, people have started to lose faith in both the media and the government. And in fact, there's this amazing communications company called Edelman's, which you may have heard of. And if you haven't, you really need to tuck into their research that comes out every year that says people's trust is now turning to business. And what that means as communications people is that within the business, you have to help your business to look after first and foremost its employees or its staff, who are always the most important audience and often the ones most forgotten. And then you have to understand your business so you can communicate that effectively to who you're sitting with. Other things that have changed since when I was a young person is climate change and its effect are now a global issue. Now, for most of us who are presenting to you today, that wasn't something we thought about 20 years ago or even 10 years ago. But now it is most relevant to most communities in the world, and people are changing the way they behave or the companies they want to interact with based on the way they look after the climate. So as you will probably know, recently there was a big conference in Egypt that talked to climate change. Also, you'll probably find around your own university, there are small things that you are doing to look after the climate. They could be doing things like putting rubbish, different types of rubbish, in types of different bins. For an example, scraps might go here, plastics might go there. And that's not going to change because, as Mr. Jaffri brought up 5 to 10 minutes ago, the weather patterns have changed. And as Tomas said to us, Puerto Rico is affected quite often by hurricanes and tornadoes. And here in New Zealand, we, along with Indonesia and many people in Asia, sit on the fire zone where earthquakes are quite common. So that means, again, there are areas that you can determine that you want to work in. So I've talked about trust, I've talked about climate change, and the next thing I'm going to talk about, which has changed fundamentally, is that everybody is now a citizen journalist. So that's a term that we tend to use in New Zealand. So this here, our phone, provides us the opportunity to grow and use social media to actually promote lots and lots of activities. And what we have to learn as communicators is to learn to use it well, to actually understand what other people are saying about us, to actually bringing it forward. So coming back to your careers, well, there's lots and lots of opportunities for you once you graduate. You could be like Tomas, who talked recently about he's an agent. He works in an agency, as Mr. Jaffri does, as does Miss Pista. These people who work in agencies, they have a little bit more fun than probably people in-house, because what they have to do, as Tomas said, is they need to project manage, and they get to do really fun things. And maybe Mr. Jaffri will tell you a little bit later, they can run massive events, or they could be helping somebody with a campaign to sell toothpaste, not the marketing part, but the communications part. Or they could be helping somebody to understand how government legislation works. So your first option that you can think about is you might think, I have the personality to work in an agency. I would say, though, that you're not likely to work 8 hours a day if you work in an agency. The second thing you could do is possibly go and work for somebody like Mr. Peter, who will be talking later. And his is a company that doesn't only do PR, but it actually also is a trainer and an educator. And to do something like that, you need a completely different set of skills. You need to be able to write well, you need to be able to communicate, but you actually need to be able to inspire people to learn. The third option you could consider is working in-house. Now, in-house, there may be another term in your country, but that's when, for an example, there could be a company like, let's say, Adidas, and they sell sports gear, and you love sports gear, and they have a communications and marketing department. If you work in-house, then the only thing you will ever work for is the brand Adidas and what that stands for. Now, I've talked about agency life and I've talked about working in-house, and those are kind of the major areas, but then you can specialize. And this is the beauty of our world. You might be somebody who's amazing at digital and social media, and that's all you do. Or you might be somebody who just loves doing digital and developing websites and web content. You could be a little bit more politically minded and determine that you want to work in government relations. Now, you're not going to know anything like that as a student. And so what you need to do to prepare yourself for the world that is outside is look at lots of options, and you need to network. Now, networking is such an overused word, isn't it? You know, I didn't know when I was making friends when I was 18 that that was networking. But we are a people business. AI will never completely take us over. It'll just supplement what we do. The word relations and public relations, as Thomas pointed out, is the most important one, because we need to develop relations. Now, we know that times have changed, where once upon a time we might sit down and have a cup of tea or go out for a meal together. We might do that now via this here is the most powerful, the old telephone or your mobile is the most potent communications tool you have. But you still need to be able to develop relationships, and there is still a people factor. And if you can't do that, you can have all the other skills in the world and you won't be successful. So my advice in closing is be curious, as Thomas said, be passionate about what you choose to do. Don't think you need to be one thing and not another because you're starting on your career, and make sure you take the opportunity to meet, to talk, to network with as many people as you can in our industry. And don't worry where you'll end up in the first 3 to 5 years. And the final point is continue to learn to be relevant so you can continue to be whatever you determine to be in our profession. Thanks so very much for listening to me, and I'll now hand you back to Mr. Jaffri.
Thank you, Fiona. Big hand to Fiona as well. So happy that you're still with us, Fiona, even though it's 1 a.m. in New Zealand. and the beautiful sharing, and we can see the connection between the trends presented by Anna and the presentation by our friend Thomas and by yourself, Fiona. And going back to Fiona's presentation, keywords, key takeaways are writing is still important, as mentioned by Thomas as well and Anna. This writing skill is unique because it's just not about creating 3 messages for your press release. It's convincing people with your campaign. It's convincing people with your social media networking. Reading, critical thinking, research, climate change, citizen journalism, all noted. Most importantly, at Global Alliance, as mentioned by Anna, you can visit our website and you can look at our trends, and you can actually visit all the information presented by Anna earlier. Also, as mentioned by Fiona, you can look and Google out Edelman Trust Barometer, and you will see the latest findings as presented by Fiona with regards to the lack of trust or the reduced interest in media and government, which is a bit strange, and the increase of trust in business. And this has flipped if you compare to the trust barometer of Edelman's about 8 to 10 years ago. Yeah. So the findings are relevant, and it excites people like all of us in this group, and all of you should be, because we need to come up with our own strategic thinking from here on. Moving on from Fiona in New Zealand. Thank you, Fiona. And just before we go on to the next speaker, the match is about to end. Cameroon is still drawing with Serbia, 3-3. There's a few seconds left. My money is on Cameroon, just to make Peter happy, the next speaker. Now, going straight to the next speaker now. He is a communication specialist with experience spanning over 2 decades. He holds several portfolios in both professional and corporate leadership. Peter is currently a board member of Global Alliance for Public Relations and Communication Management and chair of the Africa Regional Council of Global Alliance. He is the immediate former president of Africa Public Relations Association and still serves as a council member of APRA, the continental body for communication professionals. Peter is a recipient of PRSK Golden Honors Award, the highest and lifetime award that recognizes outstanding achievement in PR in Kenya. He has taught media and strategic communication in a couple of universities in Kenya. His academic credentials include an MBA, a BA, and postgraduate diploma in mass communication, among many other qualifications. He has served in a range of dynamic sectors, including publishing, media, energy development, banking, health, entertainment, and the United Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, we go into our Global Alliance Africa Chair. Please give a big hand to Peter Mutie.
Thank you very much, Jaffri. I appreciate that you are supporting Cameroon. They are called the Indomitable Lions. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is in your countries. It's a pleasure to have this conversation today, and I want to acknowledge Global Alliance for putting together this very useful interaction. Specifically, Hannah, thank you very much for leading the process. Jaffri, you're moderating very well, and keeping us posted on what is happening at Qatar. It's important, otherwise people will deviate from what we are doing and go and check results. So thanks very much. Now, I think we have one of the most interesting profession, and Fiona has articulated that. Public relations, and if you want strategic communication, several synonyms that we use, is a very, dynamic profession. We are the only profession actually that serves across all sectors. When you are in PR, you can work in banking institutions, you can work in hospitals, healthcare, you can actually work in nuclear science institutions, because our roles and responsibilities involve communicating, and communication is universal, and it is across all sectors. Personally, I have, I think, served in about 7 sectors. I started in publishing. I found myself in the mainstream media. Later went into energy generation, development, banking, later in the health sector, and finally, before I started my agency work and training work, I was doing communication and leadership in film industry. So we have got no limitation in terms of areas and sectors that we can serve. And that is really a very big plus for our profession and a very big encouragement for the students who are pursuing this career. The sky is the limit. We also have a very bright future. We are one of the profession which is, facing very good longevity in terms of sustainability in the future. Why am I saying that? It's because we are living in the communication age. And communication is now determining the success or failure of organizations. That's one. 2, we are seeing trends that are emerging that require PR skills. And our services and our delivery will be demanded as long as these trends, these new trends persist. In Kenya, for example, it is a constitutional requirement to engage stakeholders in what you're doing, whether in the organization, if it is private sector, or it is government, quasi-government, stakeholder engagement is a constitutional right. Article 10 of our constitution requires you to do that. And who is the right guy to do that? It is the PR person. So issues management, issues that will keep coming energy, environment, social and governance issues, which Fiona articulated. All those will be driven by PR and strategic communication. So the future is bright, and the jobs will be there. And of course, if you don't want to be in-house, you also have the opportunity to run your own agency establishments and provide these services. So, what do you need to do as a student to build that career and ensure that by the time you're finishing your studies, you are all round and you are ready for the market? One, of course, is the academic training. So those of you who are doing your degree in either PR and communication, that is the beginning point. But don't limit yourself to that one certificate. The more you build your credentials in terms of additional skills, the better you become as an all-rounded communication person. And our profession requires us to understand our organizations thoroughly. We are supposed to understand the organization in terms of operations, in terms of human resources, in terms of all those things that we communicate. And so having a boutique of skills is very important. Then, of course, keeping yourself cutting edge, ensuring that you are up to date with the latest development in the profession, with the latest trends, is very important. And there are opportunities available. One such opportunity is what we are doing at the Global Alliance. We are providing you, an opportunity to get the cutting edge, the latest trends in the profession. Anna did present about the emerging trends. I think she also talked about the researches that we are doing, approaching the future, and all this content is available for you to keep yourself up to date and cutting edge. That is very important. Of course, you must build your public speaking. We speak a lot in public relations. You must be able to articulate and convince your audiences, either through oral speaking or public speaking, as we call it, or through written communication. And, of course, networking. I would expect all of us students to have a LinkedIn account where you can then share with other professionals some of the things that you like to get. And more importantly, actually remaining active in those networking platforms. I always encourage students to get out and showcase what you can do. Here in the Public Relations Society of Kenya, we do have on an annual basis Jaffri, you're saying something? Yeah, we do have on an annual basis a program where we recognize students. And so students that come out and present their work get rewarded. And believe you me, many of them who get rewarded immediately get engaged. So I would like to encourage you to be outgoing. It's very important to be outgoing, and keep improving and making your skills up to date. And finally, as I finalize on this presentation, there's something I like encouraging students to do. I tell them, mark your territory. You know, the way the big cats mark their territories. And once you mark your territory, then exploit that territory. And I can assure you that many of us who marked territories, Jaffri, Fiona there, we have seen what happens when you mark your territory, then you exploit it. So the sky is the limit. We have the opportunities to work in many sectors, like I've said, and our profession is quite so much on demand, and there will be many opportunities for you when you finish your studies and you join the actual PR jobs, either in corporate or in agencies. That's what I would like to say, and later probably I could add one or more things when we get to the interaction session of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Well done. And I think the marking of territory, we heard the story and we understood the concept and the theory, and it is so applicable, and it was at the Kuala Lumpur International PR Conference, and we are so happy that you described that. And all of us know that all of us, from when you are a student to when you graduate and until you are in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, you would have expanded your territory, or you become really good at your territory that, people call upon you to work on their project programs and so on. So a big hand to Peter for the wonderful sharing. And I think the sky is the limit is so true. All of us, I'm going to ask, one of the first questions I'm going to ask later to all the speakers will be where you were as a student. What were your thoughts before being that comm student? What was your first employment and where you are today? And that was part of the marking of the territory. And I think the academic training requirement, the trends are well articulated. Now, as Peter mentioned, and as Thomas also mentioned, and Fiona and Anna, that you always need to go back to Global Alliance, look at our website, globalalliancepr.org, globalalliancepr.org, to get more information on trends and many other areas of research that we have done at Global Alliance. Now, our fourth speaker, can I just check with Matthews, is our Miss MandyPearse online?
We will share a video she's recorded especially for this event.
Okay, so before we play the video, can I just introduce our speaker? Before I go there, I just want to say the full-time result is 3 Cameroon, 3 Serbia, and it's over. And I would like to say sorry to Peter, because the next match in 1 hour, I would need to support Korea because they are nearer to us as our neighbor. And Korea will be playing Ghana. Yeah, we'll be playing Ghana. I'm going to support both, but I'm going to be more biased to South Korea. Yeah. Now, before we go on to the next speaker, can I just introduce our next speaker? She is a PR strategist. She is a consultant, a speaker, and a trainer. She hails from England in the UK and is the current Vice President of the Chartered Institute of PR, and she is with the CIPR board in the UK. Ladies and gentlemen, she is the Communications Director of Seychelles Communications. Please give a big hand to Miss MandyPearse.
Hello, I'm Mandy, and I'm delighted to be with you here today. Sorry I can't be with you live, but I'm really pleased to have this opportunity to meet and talk with students across the world in our PR profession. I've had the luck and pleasure to have a very varied career in public relations. From the start of my career, I worked a lot with public sector, government, and local government, so that's councils and regional councils in government in the UK, which has given me the opportunity to work across lots of different sectors and undertake lots of PR challenges, from regenerating major city centres to providing housing for people, dealing with crises and like fires and floods, and also to deal with both local media and the world's media on big events. So it's been a really varied career, and I would say do consider the possibility of working in the public sector. It isn't the most glamorous, but it certainly will give you a really wide range of experiences. So as well as working across sectors, so doing lots of things like planning and engineering, standing in fields with hard hats and looking at bridges being built, I've also had the opportunity to do all of the PR functions that we learn about. So I've managed big crises of weather and events. I've also managed internal communications, so big staff employee communications with thousands of staff members who need to be informed about things. I've done media relations, so worked with journalists and reporters and editors, which has been really fun. I've also done work around brand and marketing. I've had the opportunity to run big behaviour change campaigns. So I've had an opportunity really to flex all my PR skills in my career. So that's one of the things I think is slightly different about working in the government and public sector, as opposed to some of the private and charitable sectors. Then I moved into running my own business. So that's a learning curve in itself, being able to do absolutely everything for yourself. So being able to do all your facts and figures, your accounts, your photography, your digitography, managing your own social channels, managing all your own ICT, and going out and promoting yourself, which is quite different from promoting your organization or your brand. To go out and promote yourself as a person is quite interesting. And I've had spent 10 years doing that and really enjoyed it. So I think there's a real golden moment for public relations at the moment. We're seeing brands and organizations want to really use public relations to establish their purpose. The need for a corporate narrative, a compelling story about the evolution of the brand or organization has become more important, and one of the things that we're really good at. We've seen huge growth in social and digital, so being able to understand audiences and engage with them online on different platforms has never been more important, and that includes the creation of digital content, whether that's photography, whether it's narratives or videography. There's absolutely huge opportunities that were not there when I started my career. And we still need all the classic pieces of work in PR, like research and insight and being able to evaluate what we do. When I started my career, if we got a good coverage in the newspapers, we thought we'd done a good job. Now we're much more sophisticated. It's not just about getting coverage in traditional media, but it's how is our presence on social media? How is the sentiment around our brand? Are we getting our customers and audiences to do what we want them to do? Are they buying our products, donating to our charity, or undertaking the changes in behaviour in their lifestyle that we would like? So huge opportunities there. And I think COVID, while it has been hugely challenging, and I absolutely applaud you as students or newly qualified PR practitioners for sticking to your studies throughout the COVID pandemic. It's never been a harder time to be a student. So well done to all of you for keeping focused and keeping studying. What COVID has done, though, has absolutely put public relations centre stage. So whether it's been communicating with staff as we moved rapidly from working in offices to working to digital remote working and hybrid working, the importance of internal communications has never been more appreciated by senior leaders. At the same time, we needed to communicate outwardly to our customers around how services and products were going to change because of the COVID pandemic. So loads of new digital channels opened up. We created much richer relationships with our customers, and we consolidated our brand positioning by being sensitive to the needs of both our customers and our employees. And if you worked in the public sector, as I do, we did huge amounts of work to communicate with people around the pandemic, helping them understand what changes in their lifestyle were going to be important to keep them safe, encouraging them to take up vaccines because that would be the safest way for them to continue with their lifestyle. And that has really challenged us around finding the right messenger for the right audience and getting the right channel. So we've never been so accurate with our targeting of information and messaging. And I think that goes across all sectors. So I think there's what it has left is a legacy that senior leaders really understand public relations. They understand the need for public relations and they really value it. So one of the things I'm often asked is, what qualities am I looking for in a successful PR practitioner? And the things that come to mind, a lot of the very technical things you can learn on the job and you can learn from other professionals. But there are some qualities which are really important. So for me, I really like organised people. I do expect people to arrive on time, prepared and appropriately dressed, so that they are from the outset a professional. So that is one of the sort of givens that I would expect. I expect people to be digitally literate. So I expect if you're going to be managing social and digital channels, that you have a good understanding of them, that you use them regularly yourself, and that you practice those skills of photography, of videography, and you keep learning. Which brings me on to the next point. You need to keep curious. You need to look at things and learn and study and try and watch what is going on in the world and ask questions. Never just sit there and accept what people say. Ask questions, be curious. That's the way to keep learning, and that's the way to have a long and varied career in public relations. And finally, you need to be creative. You need to have those different ideas. Don't be part of the group think. Just because everyone else in your group or your agency or your organization are thinking about doing something in one way, that doesn't mean that your idea, which is different, isn't important. Always feel valued and that your ideas are important, and share them, because often it's that slightly off the wall idea that can spark everyone else into doing something different and coming up with something brilliant, award-winning and creative. So definitely stay creative. In terms of the best things I can recommend to you in your early stages of your career, or if you're still a student, firstly, practice your skills. So if you want to practice your writing and demonstrate your writing, maybe have a personal blog. Have a presence on all the relevant social media channels and be able to demonstrate that you can create compelling content on those channels. So get some experience if you can as well. So as well as doing your personal experience, if you can volunteer with a charity or an organisation where you can show, you can write press releases, you can design web, you can write for websites, you can create photography, you can do create small videos, you can manage social channels. The more you can show an employer that you can do the job as well as know about doing the job, the better. And the other thing I would say is put yourself forward for things. Ask for the opportunity. Don't stand back. For too long in my career, I stood back because I worked in the public sector. I didn't feel as important as people who worked for global brands, despite the fact that what I was doing was saving people's lives. I didn't feel I had the experience or I had the skills, when in reality I did. In fact, I had more experience and skills than many people I later got to know. So it took me a long time to put myself forward for the Chartered Institute of Public Relations Council and board, and then to stand to be elected as president. That was a huge thing for me to do from the background I come from, which isn't, you know, a wealthy, experienced background. And when I started, we didn't have public relations qualifications and awards. So I had to learn everything on the way. So definitely put yourself forward. Ask for the opportunity. Ask for the pay rise. You are worth it. Ask to have the opportunity to go on training courses and continually develop and learn for yourself. I've loved speaking to you. I'm happy to have any questions sent over to me and I will answer them. And have a fantastic day.
All right. Thank you, MandyPearse in London. It's always a pleasure having Mandy. Mandy is still with our Global Alliance Council. She's been helping us a lot, not just from her side, but through CIPR UK, and a lot of sharings with Mandy now. And I think there's some overlap sharings as well about where you are as a student and what would you want to learn. Her points about media relations, crisis, brand and brand evaluation, research, photography, videography, social and digital knowledge, and many more. And there are a lot of overlaps even with the data and research that Anna presented from the beginning to the third presenter from Peter. Now, there are a lot of questions. Some questions have come in through the chat box. Some have come in through the email. Some have come in direct to me from my colleagues here in Malaysia. But before we go on to the first question that's coming online, can I just double check with all the speakers online, also with Anna, who's online? Can you just tell me in 30 seconds, what was your first vocation? What was your first job, maybe in school or at the university, or your first job upon graduation? And what are you doing now primarily? Can I start with Anna?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jaffri. Yes, when I started as a production assistant in the in-flight magazine of our flag carrier airlines, the Philippine Airlines. So I used to proofread and sort of edit some of the items for the magazine. But immediately after 6 months, I think it wasn't my turf. So I started working in the PR public relations, and I just stuck with it because I so love it. And I felt like it's my eureka.
Nice. I think it's with most of our eurekas, yeah. Thanks, Anna. And now I'm going straight to Puerto Rico. Thomas, what was your first job as a student or as an undergrad? And now, what are you doing now and the relevance? Thomas.
Well, as soon as I graduated, I started working at General Foods. I was assistant brand manager in the marketing department for Tang, an instant beverage drink that was made here in Puerto Rico. And it was a fabulous experience because we had, since the product was made here, we had control over the formula, the flavors, the varieties, the packaging, the labeling, We created advertising and promotions and all sorts of programs for the product. So it gave me a very solid base knowledge and experience of marketing. And then that's when I was hired by Hidden Knowlton to come with, from my marketing background, to be able to serve public relations clients on public relations programs. And I was put through an intense development and training and educational program to learn public relations and to be able to develop in that career. And that was the spark. That's what created the love for this profession. You know, I always told people that I thought there was a big difference between public relations and advertising. Advertising, you enter through the front door, you know, and then, you know, your big programs and everything's out there. In public relations, you enter through the kitchen door, the back of the house, and you're influencing the cook, you know, and the cook isn't talking about you, you know, and so you know, it's like you're reaching the same objective, but in a different form.
Oh yes, for sure, this is critical, and I think I see a copywriter who does airline industry magazine, and I see someone working in a beverage company looking at how the marketing of the drinks is done, and both of you have become gorgeous practitioner. Speaking of gorgeous, Fiona, how did you start? What was your first job and where you are today? I think you're still muted, Fiona. Sorry.
Thank you. I actually probably have a different career to most people. So my first job, I spent 12 years in the New Zealand Army as an Army officer, and I did active service in the Middle East and the Pacific, and spent up to 6 years living all over the world. So yes, I did relations, but they were more diplomacy-based relationships. And in 1993, I asked to be the Army Public Relations Officer. And that became my journey. So I left the Army, I went and worked in an agency, and then I've been doing that now for almost 30 years. And every day is a great day to get up, and every day is different. So I've worked in-house, been a general manager, I've been a chief executive of a PR company. And what I love is that I get to meet fabulous people. And I think that the work we do changes behaviors and makes the world a better place to live in.
Nice, Fiona, thank you so much. And that's true. So again, publishing, drink company, and an army soldier. And Peter, are you still online? Yes, Peter. What was your first job and where you are today?
Very interesting, Jaffri. My undergraduate training was actually in economics. So I'm an economist. And my first job was in a publishing company called Kenya Literature Bureau, which is a book publishing company, where I was hired as an editor for business books. And it is that company that sent me for postgraduate training in communication to improve my skills in editing. And my career changed from publishing to mainstream PR. And so I moved on and added skills in management. I did MBA. And because of that skill, I found myself as a chief executive officer of a state corporation, but still practicing PR. And at the moment, I'm now running a company that is involved in PR and training in the region. Still in PR, once in PR, always in PR, but the realm is large. You know, you've got a lot of space to navigate. And that's the encouragement that I was giving the students. The sky is actually just the beginning.
Very nice. I started as a burger seller. I used to sell burger at a UK university. I was studying in Kent University, UK. It was at a college called Christchurch College. And I had the Deputy Vice Chancellor coming to the stall. I only opened for 1 hour from 12:30 to 1:30. but we were making a lot of money. So the deputy vice chancellor will come and say, you have to shut down because you're from Malaysia, you don't have a permit to open a burger stall at the university. And he was wondering why there was a long queue of UK students buying Malaysian burger. It's basically because of the poster and the key messaging in the poster, in the student union, in the library, and to create a unique poster so that less people go to the university canteen and they queue up at this Malaysian burger stall. But they shut me down after 3 months with the argument that I didn't have a running water, which is not a problem. So I joined the film club, which was losing money, but we made money again through messaging, poster. We didn't have social media then, but it's through this networking. Then I came back, I worked with the radio station, and for the past 30 years, consultancy and agency work. But my point here is, all of us went through the drill, and it's very interesting today with this new generation. I'm learning a lot from this new generation, and we've got some questions coming in. Peter, there's a question in the chat box for you first, with regards to marking your territory. The question says, and the question that is asked is, how do you mark your territory? Peter.
Thank you. It's easy, and it's just like I explained about the big cat, the lion. You know, what they do is they get into their area they want to operate, and they do something biological. They pee and ensure that that particular territory is their domain. How do we translate that as PR people? Marking territory means you identify your strengths, fortify those strengths, be the best you can be, because in a territory, for you to retain it, you must be the best. Become a go-getter. You know, get yourself there, like what Mandy said, seize the opportunities, showcase your capabilities as a PR person. We are outgoing. Showcase yourself. And take advantage of growth programs. There are many of them. And then provide those services to the best of your capability. That will become your territory. You do whatever you want to do in that territory, and it comes with rewards, because marking territory gives you control of your profession. So it's just a way of saying, let's excel and let us do the very best when we get the opportunity.
Yes, and I must say that you are perfectly right, and that you have to be the best that you are, and you can be within your own sphere. And as mentioned by many of the speakers, including Peter just now, we have to be agile, because there's no way that we think that we do the best copy and the best 3 messages in our press release that we survive. We will not, because all our colleagues and competitors say the same thing. And then comes Mandy's comment. Most of the customers say, how many articles can you make appear for our campaign? And that was the benchmark in the 80s and 90s, but not anymore. So I think it's very interesting. I think Anna presented as well at the recent conference on how to evaluate your PR campaign. We've got more questions coming in now. This is from a student in UITM. I think Anna and Matthias was there. It's from a student called Nur Shabrina Amran from UITM Shah Alam. Maybe this question I can pass to Tomas first, if you can attempt, then maybe to Fiona. I am interested to join as a digital PR in my future internship. So she's about to go for her internship. She would like to get into digital PR. Since traditional media are still present today, even through digital media overtaking traditional media, may I know from your experience, how can you use social media to reach and impress the public who are still using traditional media? Tomas.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that a lot of people that would be using traditional media primarily are being exposed indirectly with social media, because they may have sons, daughters, grandchildren, or friends or colleagues. I mean, even my 82-year-old mother is into social media. They may be into Facebook, they may not be into Twitter, but it's really hard to believe that they are completely isolated. So I would start by looking at that demographic and understanding what the composition is like, because maybe you can reach them through their relatives, through their friends, through their companions. And that way you can somehow develop a strategy to mark, to gain their interest into the message that you want and to the objectives that you want to communicate. And then also try to understand whether that audience has started already using social media, even if it's just Facebook instead of Snapchat or Instagram, etc. Because as I say, it's hard to believe that anybody's living in a cave and just receiving the printed newspaper nowadays. Just that there's many ways of reaching them through their acquaintances or relatives, etc.
Thank you, Thomas. I think you hit it straight. And I think in Malaysia or the region too, many traditional media has got the social media digital option as well. So
Yeah.
there are circumstances.
And
I know
everybody has this. Everybody has
yes.
this. Even
Yes,
I mean,
relatives.
there are some people who prefer the flip phones, and they're stuck to that, and they're watching TV in their house on a tube, and they're listening to radio. But they have relatives, they have grandchildren, or they have friends that are into social media, and maybe that's a way of reaching them.
So true, Thomas, because we just had our general election last week, and I actually asked all my staff, well, most of my staff in Kuala Lumpur, not who they voted for, but what made the final influence to decide which they crossed for. Now, with some of my younger generation, I was shocked. They were on social media, they were looking at TikToks, they were looking at Instagram and messaging online. But my most junior staff actually said he had coffee the night before with 3 of his closest buddies, face to face, and they decided who to go for, which party to go for. I asked some other colleagues and managers and consultants. Some said they actually spent the final night with the mother. Some actually said they spoke to the spouse in the morning, even though they had traditional and definitely social and digital work going on during the election. And it was a great influence. But like you say, at the end of the day, the decision that has to be made. Yeah. Thank you. Is there any other add-ons? Anna, you want to add on to the answer?
Oh yeah, I think in order to bridge the gap because of the Internet of Things, this is unavoidable, especially in the Philippines. When pandemic happens, in the beginning, people are not into this. We categorize it as baby boomers, Gen Xers, millennials, and then the Gen Zs. I think it helped that we have categorized all these audiences. And during the pandemic, what we've experienced in the Philippines, everybody have accepted and embraced the Internet of Things because number one, they have no choice. All the news sources are gotten from the social media postings because you cannot buy newspapers. So you can only hear news from the TV, that's the traditional ones, and the radios. But basically, in order to get the news 24/7, it's really through social media. So when it happened, it helped a lot to embrace this community of being a digital savvy. Even my grandmother knows how to use it. The grandmother asked the grandson how to use the gadget. So it is where we are now. But as a practitioner, I believe we have to go back to the basics. We have to learn the media landscape. If you're from the brand or from the agency, you need to know in crafting your campaigns, the media landscape, and of course, your target audience. So I think by knowing that and getting deeper into that, you can come up with something embracing the social media that is going to be embraced by everyone as well. Because if you categorize it per bracket, then you will lose along the way. The campaign will not get that much impact. So I think the key takeaway here is that you should know your audience and you should know your landscape.
Thank you, Anna. And I think you have a colleague in Philippines who have sent in a question from the Far Eastern University, the Philippines. Question maybe to Fiona. Fiona, yeah. It's about 2 a.m. now. Are you okay, Fiona? Yeah.
I'm absolutely fine.
Thank you, Fiona. Okay, the question is, should social media and digital marketing program be separated? Very good question from public relations. Should social media, digital marketing be separated as a university program from PR studies? Fiona.
No, I don't think they should. I mean, because I think the word is communication and they are tools. So if you think about what social media is or digital media, they're actually channels to get information out, which comes from good communication. And we can fight around the edges about what's right or wrong, but just remember, channels are how we get information out.
Yes. Good answer. And I think it's so relevant that people understand the word communication, as mentioned by Fiona, encapsulates the bigger picture. Yeah. I keep mentioning about square, and I think this captures what Peter, Tomas, Anna, and Fiona is talking about. We all as a practitioner need to be strategic, quick, unique, agile, resourceful, and engaging. The E is also empathy. The E is also ethical. So with all that in mind, there's no way that we can separate digital from PR work. Digital. I always say that public relations is the umbrella, and we have to put all these technical elements in it. Thank you, Fiona. Anyone would like to take on and answer the same question? Public relations, as we know it traditionally at the university, which is relevant now to some lecturers and students who are online, and digital social media work, should it be separated? Anyone?
Let me jump in there, Jaffri. PR comprises couple of skills, ranging from the social media skills to writing skills to all those other skills that we spoke about. And so it is not possible to separate them. I mean, once you separate, it will mean then you have eliminated one of the skills, isolated it, and you're taking it out of the PR bouquet of skills. I would advise that as practitioners, we be all round, so that if you are faced with an assignment that requires online social media communication, then you can do it. If you have an assignment that requires written communication, then you can do it. And all these skills complement each other to make us all-round PR professionals.
I think that's excellent, and we have to understand the bigger picture. And I think the most beautiful caption this evening in Malaysia, this morning in Puerto Rico, is a bouquet of skills that we need to understand as a PR practitioner. And there's no one flower that can be categorized as our skill, but we need to mark our territory with a bouquet of skills. Wonderful. More questions are coming in, also from this region, in the ASEAN region. One of it would be, I think, Anna, to you. Very simply, what is a typical day for a communication professional practitioner like you? In 30 seconds, go on.
You want the real answer? Our life is 24/7, actually. So if the client calls in the middle of the night because there's a crisis, you have no choice but to wake up and work on the messages and listen to them on how we can deliver it the following day. So the typical day would be, it's actually, this is not routinary. The thing I like about PR, it's not routinary like in the bank where you go to the office and then at 9 o'clock you start the work and then at 6 o'clock you go home. You know what I love in PR? You don't know what time of the day you'll start with your work. Because as I've said, and then it seems that everything is global. So you talk about crisis, you talk about crafting a campaign, you talk about creating a message, you're sending it across after creating it. So there's no really a typical time that I can say we start from this time and then end at this time. But yeah, basically, because we're bound to work office hours, it's 9 to 6, but us is always extended to up to 12 in the midnight, just like Fiona here, in order for her to be able to reach out and share her piece and share her knowledge. She has to wake up at 2 a.m. and share these things with you, and not even a hiccup. So there's no typical day, a day in the life of a PR person. It's always a 24/7, and when the crisis hits, when the demand hits, then you work on the matter. So I think that's my take on that one.
I think we all agree with you. Maybe all the trainers and even Matthias who's online, do you agree that you work 24/7 as a PR practitioner? Can you raise your hand if you agree? Oh, yes. So, so students, what you're getting into. You're getting into an exciting area. It is an exciting area because I know for a fact, like most of us here would have been engaged with a beverage company, would have been engaged, for example, one of the leading vitamin C retail beverage company that we were working on. Some students in New Zealand discovered that it didn't have vitamin C. And I get the phone call at 6 o'clock in the morning because New Zealand is ahead of me. And the panic started in the ASEAN region and Singapore and Malaysia because of this. Because of this. Therefore, then we were at 8 o'clock in the morning, we were already in the war room of the multinational company. And we had to come up with creative strategies and tactics because the ROI and the KPI had to be set. It's an international company, even though they have a standard template of a press release for the media, but different region, different country had to work on it. So we had to strategize the press conference. Do you get the CEO to speak at the press conference? Do you need to get a third party to come in to speak at the press conference? Where will the press conference be held? And so on. So I think it's always an exciting vocation. And as you can see, we have exciting people on board. Anna Pista, thank you so much for organizing and being the chair of the Student and Young Practitioners Month. A big hand to Puerto Rico as well, Mr. Tomas, for coming in. It's never easy, I know, but because we are all at a different time zone. A big hand to our 2 o'clock in the morning professional lady from New Zealand, Fiona. Thank you so much for making time. My brother, Jumbo in Nairobi, Kenya. Thank you so much, sir, for making time to share your experiences. There are many, many more experiences that we can share. And please, please share all your thoughts and all your questions to the official Global Alliance email. You can communicate straight with our very able communication and admin director, Matthias, or we will post it. Anna will post it online after this program where you can put in all your questions. With that in mind, I'm thankful that we are all about to end because South Korea is about to play Ghana. And I think, as I told Peter, I will be supporting South Korea. Why? Because the captain, Hugh Meng-son, celebrates every time he scores a goal, he goes there. He goes there. That's a square, yeah? Remember, all of us were talking about being strategic, quick, unique, agile, resourceful, and engaging. and we hope that you've been engaged this evening. Thank you all. Back to Matthews.
Thank you, Jaffri, and I'd like to thank everyone who was in this panel with us. It was very insightful, and hearing your experience, your career, it is an inspiration, and all the students that are taking part of this webinar, for sure, it was very enriched our thoughts for our future and helped us plan our future, our career. So thank you again for taking time. It's 2 hours webinar, and most of our attendees, they watched it all. I'm very happy to that because the topics were very interesting. And I would like to remind you that tomorrow we also have another webinar. It's Jobs World, and it's going to be at the same time, 11 GMT. And we would like to invite you to also join our live webinar, because in this moment we can ask questions and interact with our speakers. And this webinar will be available also for on demand. So later today, we're going to be updating it in our website, so you can watch it again and share with your friends who were unable to watch during this time. And also it will be in the Global Alliance Best of Education Training Month that will start this December and stay in all the months of December and January. It's more than 250 webinars that you students have access, is free, and you can watch on demand. And the webinars, they goes from crisis communication, digital marketing, PR, media relations, ESG. So all the aspects of PR, you can have access with webinars presented from presenters from over 40 countries as well. So we have a diversity of presenters, diversity of countries and cultures, and also the diversity of topics in the PR business. And so with that, I thank you all. Peter, Fiona, Tomas, Mandy, Anna, Jaffri, and hope to see you tomorrow.
Bye, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Good
Night,
night.
morning.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.